So earlier we talked about foreign policies. We're now going to delve deeper into the economic outlook under Prabowo Subianto's administration. And we are now joined in the studio by Indonesian International Islamic University's head of PhD in economics program, Teguh Yudo Wicaksono. Good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
So let's talk about some of Prabowo administration's key policy priorities for the next 5 years in order to navigate possible turbulent times.
Okay, thank you for inviting me. So if we heard Pak Prabowo's inauguration speech, we learned that he indicates a slight departure from Pak Jokowi's policy. So for instance, like he mentioned a couple times about the need for focusing on the poor, on the vulnerable households, and I guess in the next 5 years, Pak Prabowo will focus more on the policies related with helping the poor, and also on he mentions as well about this self-reliance on food security, energy as well. I mean, like if we reflect a little bit about Pak Jokowi's past 10 years, we see that he focuses more on infrastructure. But it seems the next Pak Prabowo administration, he will focus more on the social policy. So I guess this is kind of the key message that Pak Prabowo want to deliver in the next 5 years from his administration.
So you mentioned the shift in focus from infrastructure development to more human development.
Yes.
Human resources of Indonesia. We have like free nutritious meals programmed, and this could potentially cost $27.6 billion annually. How do you see it impact to our debt to GDP ratio and also a fiscal deficit?
Yeah, right. I think when people think about this new social policy, we tend to assume that we are going to keep the same levels of spending on infrastructure project. And Pak Prabowo, I guess, will refocus on the state budget, and no one is better serving as finance minister as Bu Sri Mulyani, and he correctly appointed Bu Sri Mulyani as his finance minister. Bu Sri Mulyani, like already served for 3 presidents, has been through the different volatility, global economic crisis, and also expansion. So I guess she is very well known about the, how to refocusing our budget. So that's a good start, I guess, and also it gives a strong signal to the markets that Pak Prabowo will be prudent in terms of the budget. So I guess this is a positive signal for the market.
Okay, so one of the things that we talked about earlier in the program, brought up by Aline, was a target has been set by President Prabowo of 8% annual economic growth. We know that prior to this, we have seen somewhere between 4 to 5%. Given the current and possible future challenges that I mentioned earlier, what measures can be planned in order for us to try to achieve this 8% number?
So yeah, Pak Prabowo will face very high challenges, first from the global uncertainty, as you mentioned, and also for like these geopolitical tensions. It's not that easy even during this peacetime. It's really hard for Indonesia to achieve like more than 5% economic growth. And I guess this is back to Pak Prabowo decision. I mean, he has to take unpopular decision if we want to achieve this 8% target. For instance, like we need to improve in terms of the efficiency, right? So to fight against this red tape, corruption, and so on and so forth. And I think some of the policies are also not popular, even for the public itself. So that's I think I will be cautiously optimistic. I think if we reflect on what happened in India already reaches like 8% growth, so it's possible. But of course, there are so many homeworks for Pak Prabowo to achieve, to address these structural economic problems in Indonesia. So that's the challenge, I guess.
Possible increase in foreign investments, I guess, would be another focus as well.
Yeah, that's true.
We need that because we don't want to rely on the state budget to finance the 8% growth, right?
That's right.
And what are the homeworks, in your opinion, for Indonesia to have this milestone of 8% GDP growth?
So I guess first we need to streamlining regulations. We know that we have like overlap regulations from the central and local governments that prevent foreign direct investment to come. Second, I guess we need to have more export-oriented manufacturing. I mean, like now, manufacturing's contribution to the total GDP, to total output is 18%. It's down from 30% in the early 2000s. So that's the thing that Pak Prabowo should address in his administration. And the last one is about, the regulations related with local content requirements. I guess we need to evaluate this sort of the policy, because there are some exporters that need, important local content, and the administration need to think about how to modify this policy. And I guess another one is, Pak Prabowo is, kind of a person that is willing to engage with international communities.
Very much.
And the thing is, like, whether we can leverage his networks to bring Indonesia economic interest globally. So, for instance, like at the WTO or at the international cooperations, economic cooperation. I think these are important to open new markets and also to attract foreign direct investment to Indonesia.
Networking, basically.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about household consumption.
Yeah.
There was a 4.82% growth in 2023. How do you think the Prabowo administration plans to either sustain or even possibly accelerate this trend? Because there are purchasing power pressures these days.
So I guess creating more jobs is critical in this case.
Okay.
Again, manufacturing policy that employ many workers is critical. So that's the first task. The second one, I guess, open the trade policies. So pushing the open trade policy, I guess this is a short term because given that the gap between local prices and international prices, part of the problem is of course the logistics and also restrictive trade policy. This is the second thing of that he needs to address. Inflation, of course, inflation's ruined the livelihood of middle class. So we need to monitor, and there are some tools to manage inflation outside of this interest rate. So I guess we have tools, and also another one is, of course, income supports. And this is the core of Prabowo's policy, right? Like you mentioned about the freelance program. This is part of the policy to, maintain the purchasing power of Indonesians households.
So you mentioned the importance of creating jobs, and also regarding the 8% GDP growth target, we need to find new source of growth. What are those source of growth? We know that President Joko Widodo before has tried to use nickel downstream as a tool. And regarding the new administration, Prabowo Subianto, what are the new source of growth?
Yeah, I think seems that Prabowo will continue the downstreaming policy. I think this is a good way as well. Another potential source of the growth that we haven't exploited, massively is about the blue economy. Like we are an oceanic country, so basically we need to improve the sustainability, the exploring this from our oceans. And another one is sustainability. Green economy. Indonesia is, rich, abundant in natural resources, particularly on the green, geothermals, and also hydropower. And even like our forest cover is, good for, carbon credit. I think this is the areas that we should tap for, promoting economic opportunities in the future.
Yeah, and I think we've seen early parts of that at the tail end of President Joko Widodo's time in office as well. So hopefully those initiatives can be continued and expanded as well. I want to touch back on a point that you mentioned earlier, which is inflation. We will hopefully try to keep inflation at 2.5% by 2025. But also there's a poverty rate that we would like to see reduced to 7 to 8%. Now, you mentioned global inflation is also an issue that we have to contend with. So what specific policies can be enacted in order for us to kind of keep inflation in check as well as reducing that poverty rate?
First, I guess we need to address the potential of imported inflation coming from the food import. So first, again, back to the trade policy, I think open trade policy is really important, particularly to address this food shortage in the short term. The second one, of course, BI tend to be central bank, Indonesia central bank tend to anticipate the potential of price increase. So I guess this is kind of the anticipatory policy that we need. And the third one, I guess, we have some sort of a non-conventional policy related in addressing inflation. So I know that Ministry of Finance provide incentives to the local governments to monitor prices at their jurisdictions.
Yes.
I guess this is really important because once they observe certain indications of price rising, so they ask the central government to address the issue. I guess this is non-conventional, but somehow it works. So I think Pak Prabowo inherits really good tools in managing inflation. So the thing is like how to utilize these tools and also to coordinate with this local government to address these inflation problems.
Points. Mm-hmm.
So we know that the small, medium enterprises absorbed the most workforce in Indonesia, up to 96%, and also it accounts for 62.5% of GDP. Do you think what are the strategies that can be implemented by Prabowo Subianto's administration to strengthen the small and medium enterprises so that they can contribute more to our economic growth?
Right. So if you reflect a little bit about the previous government, I think we already have many policies for helping these SMEs. But again, I guess Pak Prabowo needs to reconsider some of the policies because most of these policies are, tend to be protectionist. So I guess the policies that need to be adopted is more on bringing these SMEs into the global value chain.
Okay.
So again, this is related
That's
as
the
well.
next step, yeah.
Yes, connecting with the global markets, and I guess this is again related with the Prabowo's, roles in engaging the, countries and forums, international forums, and this is important thing. So another policies, I guess. Not only connecting to the global markets, but also to provide some sort of the trainings, skilling for these business owners, particularly on the small and business owners, helping them for accessing in finance. So those three policies, I guess, are really important rather than more protectionist policies.
As well as advancement in technologies, we can really help advance MSMEs as well. That's right, digital literacy. And, I think MSMEs played a huge part in our economic upturn after the COVID-19 pandemic. So hopefully we can see that growth that you were talking about, Aline. Thank you so much, Mas Teguh, for joining us this morning and for your insights in regards to the economic outlook for our present administration for the next 5 years. We are going to take another short break here on the program, but we have a couple more segments coming up. In case you joined us late and missed our first hour, I will recap some of the latest from the world of sports, as well as some entertainment news coming up later on in the program as well. Stay tuned here on the C Morning Show. We'll be right back after this.